Hi, welcome to the fourth installment of the Obasi Writers Workshop program. I'm S. Brandy Barnes. I'm your host this evening. Joining me is a new author who has written a book that I think is of interest to the African American community and, more importantly, to black males. So, with no further ado, I'm going to introduce Mr. Christopher Bennett.
How you doing?
Hi, a new author on the scene, and he decided to enter this jungle called fiction writing. The title of his book is Daddy Doesn't Want to Dance Anymore, and I'll put that right here for future viewing. But one of the things that we see in literature today, back in the late 60s, there was this big push regarding writing black writers, but it was focused more on poetry. Today, we have this real serious trend on fiction, and there are different levels of that type of fiction. And I have classified Mr. Bennett's book as pretty serious because he addresses so many political issues. But one of the first questions I want to ask you is the age of the characters that you're talking about in this book, and if you would expound a little bit on some of the things that you hit on that were the American dream or the American nightmare.
Yes. The age of the characters are in the early to mid-30s.
Okay.
The attorney who's actually telling the story is a young, ambitious attorney from Harvard University. Basically, he grew up with a privileged background, and due to that, he kind of disdained himself from black culture, black African American culture. Try to distance himself as far away from it as possible. Just so happens he come across his client who's incarcerated for non-payment of child support, and close to the age, but basically have alter egos. Their egos just clash throughout the entire story.
Are there class differences between them? You know, educational differences that make them so far apart?
Yes, the client in which he represents, I would say, was more so self-educated.
Okay.
He has a little college background, but nothing in contrast of coming out of a Harvard.
Okay, the attorney comes out of Harvard.
Coming out of Harvard.
Okay. What do you account for, and I don't want to go into all the details of the book, but what do you account for the attorney being so oblivious to his own roots?
Well, like I said, it was due to his upbringing, living outside in the suburbs, and basically being surrounded by white culture all of his life. There was a lot of self-hatred that he had because all of the negative image that was out there about the hip-hop culture, the black culture. He felt that he stood out amongst his peers.
Okay.
In the schools and as well as in college. He felt that he always had to prove himself as far as when he came to black culture, to the point where he just became kind of embarrassed, I would say, because there was a lot that he didn't know.
I know that the character had not been exposed to Tupac Shakur or to the revolutionary words of Public Enemy and Chuck D. And I found that really amazing. And then I thought about it a little bit more, that I got more introduced to Tupac as a result of my own children and my high schoolers that I taught. But Public Enemy, I was always into. You know, I thought they were so tough. It was reminiscent of a time before them. You address a lot of myths regarding black people as well as black males. And since this book focuses so heavily on black males, I thought maybe you might speak to a couple of those myths that you brought out in the book, because you do a lot of explaining here, or educating.
Well, one of the main myths is the fact that, like myself, I'm a single father of 2 daughters, and I've been there for like the past 12 years. And the thing was, as I was raising my daughters, and I go out to the parks and things of that nature, I was kind of looked like, you know, a freak of nature, because when I tell them, you know, I'm a single father with 2 children, oh wow, congratulations, that's good, you know. And I never saw it as that, because I thought that was my responsibility, that was my job. Just as to say that black men don't read, one of the myths of our culture, or just even with the negative, I would say right now in recent times, the negative depiction of hip-hop music, the gangster rap, thinking that's just what hip-hop is all about, when it's not. It was very, that's why I mentioned these these rappers in the book, because hip hop, when it first came out, was like conscious rap, you know, and we still have that, and just in a few artists, but it's not really in the forefront as it was when I was coming up.